Um, my name is Jack Roach, and my project was on chemistry of fire. So the way fire works is that it's a result of a chemical reaction that results in combustion. So in almost every instance, it's a reaction between heat, oxygen, and a combustible fuel source. So once whatever the fuel source is reaches a high enough heat, that was at a point called ignition. It catches on fire or literally ignites. And so in cases where it heats up through direct contact, such as like a metal touching something, or like an electrical outlet, that's uses conduction, which is the transferring of heat through direct contact. Anything through heating through an air or a liquid is convection, which is transferring of heat through an air, gas, and liquid. And once a fire starts, it goes through 4 different stages. The first stage is ignition, or sometimes called the incipient stage. This is right when the reaction happens and a fire starts. The second stage is growth. This is when the fire continues to grow by consuming the oxygen and fuel it has, and this keeps going on until it reaches full development, which is at the fire's peak, and that's when it's consumed all its fuel and oxygen and has reached its highest heat and size and severity. The final stage is decay, which is when the fire begins to kind of teeter out as it's used up all of its fuel and oxygen, and it keeps going until it's run out. And throughout all of that is pyrolysis, which is material decomposing through a fire. And once something's decomposed, it releases smoke and gas, which is another dangerous aspect of fires. There's 2 kinds of fires when relating to how quickly they can develop, an accelerant-based fire and a non-accelerant fire. If the reaction can include, rather than just the 3 core elements, it'll also include a 4th being an accelerant, which is something that accelerates a fire's growth and how hot it can be. And these can be incredibly dangerous, especially in an accidental case, as there's no way to gauge how much is used. A non-accelerant fire is just something that includes the core 3. So it's a difference between a big gasoline fire or a basic campfire. Most common fires are started through a match or something, but the most common kinds of unintentional fires are in kitchens. So with open flames or ovens that create heat, anything that would create contact with a flammable object reaching too much heat, or the other kind is something involving electrical outlets, such as like an open circuit or an outlet on the wall. There's 5 different kinds of fires based on safety measures. There's some Type A, which is ordinary combustibles, Type B, which is flammable liquids, Type C, which is an electrical fire, Type B, which is combustible metal and is probably the most rare, and Type K, which is cooking equipment, so kitchen fire. The best way to prevent a fire is just to make sure that there is no flammable objects left around unchecked sources of a ton of heat. So in a kitchen, it'd be making sure that an oven or a stove is only on when it's being used, and that there's no things such as paper or dry objects left around. The best way to put out a fire, besides using an extinguisher, is either covering it with water, which water acts as a barrier between a fire and its fuel source, and it also cools the fuel source down. So it kind of, such as how oil floats up to the top of fire, floats up to the top of water gets in between like that. And then the other kind is burying it with something like dirt or sand, because this suffocates the fire and cuts it off from oxygen. but the best method is still fire extinguishers. The first patented fire extinguisher was invented and used by a European chemist named Ambrose Godfrey in 1723. Was a cask containing extinguishing liquid. It was very basic, but the biggest difference was it involved the use of gunpowder, and this gunpowder would be sparked and would shoot out the extinguishing liquid, so it was a little dangerous and only had one use, or had very limited use. The first modern rendition of a dry powder extinguisher was invented by a British captain in 1818. There are other types that use soda acid, and one that was a cartridge operated, which was more portable. But the modern and most standard design was invented in 1872 by Thomas J. Martin. The biggest difference throughout all fire extinguisher designs is the handle and how easy it is to use. So most of the way most fire extinguishers work now is that by squeezing a handle like this, it causes pressure within, and whatever the liquid is shot up through a tube, or the powder, whatever it is shot up caused by the pressure, and through that tube it sprays out. There's 4 major types of fire extinguishers based on the extinguishing agents. There's dry chemical, which prevents the reaction from continuing to happen. Of foam, which it cuts off the fire from its fuel source and covers it. Water, which just sprays water, though it sometimes involves chemicals. And a cleaning agent, which it separates oxygen from the fire. Extinguishing agents have multiple kinds, but the best one is a halocarbon, because it's most efficient in wide usage, and it also is environmentally friendly, which, if advertised correctly, can help be a extra selling point. So my extinguisher would be called the Safe Life ABCD for the 4 major types of fires. Then all use industrial grade 1. The slogan is "Stop flames without damaging your computers or the earth." The estimated production cost would probably be around $75 to $100, depending on the cost of Halotron, which would be the used halocarbon. And that's it.